Why is there a for sale sign in my yard? I asked. And the man holding the wooden post stopped like I had just told him he had the wrong address. I was 68 years old, and I had lived in that house outside Charlotte, North Carolina, for 34 years. My husband, Thomas, and I had raised our son there. I knew every loose cabinet handle, every squeaky stair, every patch of grass that turned brown first in July. So when I came home from the grocery store that Tuesday morning and saw a real estate agent standing beside a bright red for sale sign, I thought there had to be some mistake. I parked in the driveway and carried one bag toward the porch. "Can I help you?" I asked. The man gave me a polite smile. "Mrs. Whitmore." "Yes." His smile relaxed. "Great. I'm Kevin Brooks. Rachel said you'd be expecting me." I stopped. "Rachel. Rachel Whitmore." He glanced toward the house. "She asked me to get the exterior photos done before noon." I set the grocery bag on the porch. "Rachel is my daughter-in-law." Kevin's smile disappeared. He looked at the sign, then at me. "I'm sorry. I thought she was handling the sale for you." "What sale?" He didn't answer right away. That told me more than words could have. Kevin pulled a tablet from his bag. "Maybe I should call Rachel." "No." I kept my voice calm. "Please tell me what you were hired to do." He hesitated. "List the property." "My property?" "Yes, For how much?" He looked uncomfortable now. $729,000 to start. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because Rachel had apparently decided the price of my home before anyone had bothered to tell me it was for sale. I looked at the sign again. Thomas had planted the oak tree behind it when Daniel was 6. We'd replaced that porch ourselves one summer because we couldn't afford a contractor. Thomas had died 18 months earlier, but this was still our home in every way that mattered to me. "Who authorized this?" I asked. Kevin looked genuinely confused. "I have the paperwork. I'd like to see it." He tapped through several screens and handed me the tablet. There was my address. My full legal name. There were instructions for photographs, an open house, and something about preparing the property for prospective buyers. Then I saw a signature at the bottom of an authorization form. Eleanor Whitmore. My name. I stared at it. Kevin cleared his throat. "Mrs. Whitmore. Where did you get this?" "Rachel emailed the documents to my office." "Did you speak to me?" "No." "Did anyone from your office speak to me?" His face changed. "Not that I'm aware of." I enlarged the signature with 2 fingers. Rachel had done a decent job. She had the first letter almost right. But Thomas used to joke that my signature looked like it was running downhill because the last 4 letters always dropped below the line. This one didn't. It sat there neat and careful. Too careful. "That isn't my signature," I said. Kevin went completely still. "Are you sure?" I looked him straight in the eye. "I've been signing my own name for 60 years. I'm sure." He immediately reached for the tablet. "Then I'm stopping everything until this gets cleared up. Before you do, could you send me a copy?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. I think you should have one." My phone chimed less than a minute later. I opened the email and saved every page. Then I surprised Kevin. "You can leave the sign for now. Mrs. Whitmore, I don't think, just until this afternoon." He studied me. "Are you going to call Rachel?" "Eventually." I picked up my grocery bag. "But first I want to know why my daughter-in-law thinks she can sell my house." I went inside, locked the door, and put the milk in the refrigerator. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I didn't call Daniel. I didn't call Rachel. I didn't even remove the sign. I sat at my kitchen table and read the documents again from beginning to end. Rachel had made one mistake already. She had assumed I wouldn't look closely. I had a feeling it wasn't going to be her last. For the next hour, I did nothing except read. I went through every page Kevin had sent me, then read them again. Rachel had listed my home as if the decision had already been made. There were notes about removing personal photographs, clearing out the guest room, and making the kitchen look more modern for buyers. One line bothered me more than the others. Seller plans to relocate before closing. I was the seller, apparently, but nobody had asked where I planned to relocate. I closed my laptop and looked toward Thomas's old study. For months, Rachel had been asking strange little questions. I had never connected them before. 2 weeks earlier, she had called while I was making dinner. "Eleanor, do you still have the deed to the house?" she had asked. I told her I probably did. She said Daniel was trying to organize family records. A month before that, she had asked about property taxes. Before that, she wanted to know whether Thomas had left a mortgage on the house. Every question had sounded reasonable by itself. Together, they sounded different. I walked into the study. Thomas's desk was still almost exactly as he had left it. I had cleaned the room, but I had never been able to change much. His old reading glasses were still in the top drawer. A yellow legal pad sat beside the lamp. I opened the bottom filing drawer and found folders for insurance, taxes, utilities, and old bank statements. The folder marked house was there too. I pulled it out and sat down. Property tax statements. Repair receipts. An old appraisal. Nothing that explained how Rachel thought she had authority to sell anything. Then my phone rang. Rachel. I stared at her name until the third ring before answering. "Hello." "Hi, Eleanor." Her voice was cheerful. Too cheerful. "How are you?" "I am fine. What are you doing today?" I looked through the study window. Kevin had left, but the sign was still standing in my yard. "Just putting groceries away." "Oh, good." She paused. "Daniel and I were thinking about stopping by this weekend." "That would be nice. There are some things we should probably start organizing." "What things?" Another pause. "Just old paperwork. Thomas kept so much stuff." I ran my finger along the edge of the house folder. "He did. You still keep most of it in the study, right?" There it was. "I think so. Especially the house papers?" she asked. "I suppose." Rachel laughed softly. "You know, you really should let us help you with all that. It is too much to keep track of." I almost told her about Kevin. I almost asked why my name was sitting under a signature I had never written. Instead, I said, "Maybe you are right." Her voice warmed immediately. "Exactly. That is what family is for." Family. I looked out at the sign again. "Rachel, did Daniel ask you to help with my paperwork?" Silence. It lasted maybe 2 seconds. "Long enough." "We have both been worried about you," she said. That was not an answer. "I understand. Anyway, do not throw anything away. We will go through it together." "I will not." After we hung up, I stayed in Thomas's chair for a long moment. Rachel had called less than an hour after Kevin left. Maybe he had contacted her. Maybe he had not. Either way, she had not mentioned the sale. She had not mentioned the sign. She had not asked whether a real estate agent had shown up at my home. She had acted like nothing had happened. That told me exactly what I needed to do. Nothing. Not yet. I photographed every document in the house folder and returned everything exactly where I had found it. Then I checked the other drawers. In the back of the lowest one, I found an empty space between 2 folders. The dust around it formed a clean rectangle. Something had been sitting there recently. Something was gone. I could not remember what it was, but I knew Thomas's filing system. He never left gaps. I closed the drawer and stood up. For the first time that morning, I was no longer wondering whether Rachel had crossed a line. I was wondering how long ago she had started. By Friday evening, I still had not mentioned the sign to Daniel. I wanted to hear what he believed before I told him what I knew. He called around 4 and asked if I wanted to come over for dinner. Rachel was making baked chicken, he said. Nothing fancy. Just family. I almost said no, but then I remembered the empty space in Thomas's filing drawer. "I will be there at 6, I told him. Daniel and Rachel lived about 20 minutes away in a newer neighborhood with wide streets and houses that all looked a little too perfect to me. Daniel opened the door before I knocked. "Mom." He hugged me quickly. He looked tired. "You doing okay?" "I am fine." Rachel appeared from the kitchen with a glass of wine in her hand. Eleanor. Good. We were just talking about you. I took off my coat. That sounds dangerous. Daniel laughed. Rachel did not. Dinner started normally enough. Chicken. Green beans. Mashed potatoes. Daniel talked about work. Rachel talked about a neighbor who had remodeled her kitchen. I listened more than I spoke. Then Rachel set down her fork. So, about the house. Daniel looked at me. Yeah. We should probably talk about that. I kept my face still. What about it? Rachel leaned back. Just the next step. You know. Downsizing. I looked at Daniel. The next step. He frowned. Mom, come on. We talked about this. Did we? He glanced at Rachel. That small movement told me everything. Rachel said you were ready, he said. Ready for what? To sell. Move somewhere easier. Maybe a condo. Maybe one of those senior communities near Lake Norman. I put down my fork. And when did I say that? Daniel looked confused now. I thought you told Rachel. Rachel jumped in. You said the house was becoming too much. I said the gutters needed cleaning. Eleanor, that is not the only thing you said. Her voice stayed calm, but there was something sharp underneath it. You said you were tired of handling everything alone. I said I missed Thomas. Daniel rubbed his forehead. Okay. Maybe there was some misunderstanding. I looked at him. Did you ask me yourself? He did not answer. Rachel crossed her arms. Nobody is trying to force you into anything. I almost asked why a real estate agent had already been sent to my house. I almost asked why my name was on paperwork I had never signed. Instead, I said, then there is no problem. Rachel stared at me for a second. Of course not. Daniel tried to change the subject, but the room felt different after that. Later, while Rachel was in the kitchen, Daniel walked me to the front hall. Mom, I really thought this was what you wanted. Because Rachel told you. He looked embarrassed. She said you two had talked about it several times. We talked about maintenance. We talked about paperwork. We did not talk about selling. His face tightened. I will talk to her. Do not. He looked surprised. Why not? I slipped on my coat. Because I want to understand something first. Understand what? I looked toward the kitchen. Rachel was standing by the counter, watching us. Whether she misunderstood me, I said, or whether she needed you to believe I had already agreed. Daniel followed my eyes. His expression changed. Not much. Just enough. On the drive home, I kept thinking about the three versions of the story. Rachel had told Daniel I wanted to sell. She had told Kevin she was handling the sale for me. And she had told me she was only helping with old paperwork. 3 stories. None of them matched. When I pulled into my driveway, the sign was still there. Under the porch light, it looked almost ridiculous. I sat in the car for a moment and stared at it. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Rachel. I hope dinner did not upset you. We are only trying to make things easier. A second message came right after. Also, please do not move any of Thomas's old documents. I will help you sort them this weekend. I read that line twice. Then I went inside and locked the door. Whatever was missing from Thomas's drawer, Rachel knew exactly where to look for it. The next morning, I was in Thomas's study before I had finished my first cup of coffee. I kept thinking about Rachel's message. Please do not move any of Thomas's old documents. It was too specific. She had not said papers. She had said Thomas's old documents. I opened the bottom drawer again and looked at the clean rectangle in the dust. Something had been there. I just could not remember what. I pulled out every folder and placed them on the desk. Insurance. Property taxes. Repairs. Bank records. Old warranties. Then, tucked behind a stack of envelopes, I found something I had not noticed before. A business card. Jonathan Reed, attorney at law. I knew the name. Thomas had worked with him years ago when he was changing some of our estate documents. I turned the card over. Thomas had written one sentence on the back in blue ink. Call Jonathan if there is ever confusion about the house. I sat very still. Thomas was not a dramatic man. He did not leave mysterious notes. He barely remembered to write grocery lists. If he had written that, there was a reason. I called the number at 8:30. A receptionist answered. Reed and Palmer. My name is Eleanor Whitmore. I am calling about my late husband, Thomas Whitmore. There was a pause. Mrs. Whitmore, yes. Mr. Reed knows the name. Let me see if he is available. A minute later, a man's voice came on the line. Eleanor. Yes. This is Jonathan Reed. I am sorry we have not spoken since Thomas passed. I found your card in his desk. His voice changed. Is something wrong? I looked through the window at the sign still standing in my yard. I think someone is trying to sell my house. He did not answer for a second. Someone. My daughter-in-law. Have you signed anything? No. Have you given anyone power of attorney? No. Has Daniel? Not that I know of. He let out a slow breath. Can you come to my office this morning? Jonathan's office was in a brick building near uptown Charlotte. He looked older than I remembered, with grey hair and reading glasses hanging from his collar. I handed him the copies Kevin had sent me. He read every page without speaking. Once, he stopped and went back to the first page. Then he looked at the signature. You did not sign this. No. And Rachel submitted it. That is what the agent told me. Jonathan leaned back. Do not call her yet. I was not planning to. That earned the smallest smile. Thomas always said you noticed more than people thought. He turned to his computer. There is something I need to check. He searched through several records while I waited. I could hear the soft clicking of his keyboard. Then he stopped. Eleanor, do you remember how the house was titled after Thomas updated your estate plan? No. I assumed it was just in both our names. It was, for many years. He looked at me carefully, but Thomas changed the structure later. I felt my stomach tighten. Why? Protection. Mostly for you. He pulled up another document and turned the monitor toward me. I recognized our address. I did not understand the legal wording. What does this mean? I asked. Jonathan folded his hands. It means Rachel does not have the authority she appears to think she has. Can she sell the house? Not legally, based on what I am seeing. Relief came first. Then anger. Quiet anger. The kind that sits behind your ribs and does not need to make noise. Then we stop the listing. Jonathan shook his head. We can. He glanced again at the documents Rachel had submitted. But first I want to know exactly what she has already done. I looked at him. Why? Because if this is a misunderstanding, we handle it one way. If it is not, we need a complete record. He printed several pages and placed them in a folder. Do you think Rachel knows how Thomas arranged ownership? I have no idea. Jonathan nodded slowly. Then do not tell her. Before I left, he gave me one instruction. Save every message. Every email. Every document. Do not argue. Do not threaten. Just keep records. I drove home with the folder on the passenger seat. When I turned onto my street, I saw Rachel's car parked in my driveway. She was standing on my porch, holding a key. For half a second, I thought about driving past my own house and circling the block. I needed time to think. Then Rachel saw me. She lifted one hand and smiled like she was doing me a favor. I pulled into the driveway and parked behind her car. You are here early, I said. I told you I would help with the paperwork this weekend. It is Saturday. Exactly. She held up the key. Daniel gave me the spare months ago, remember? I did remember. He had borrowed it when I was visiting my sister in Virginia. I had never asked for it back. I was going to let myself in, Rachel said. But your deadbolt was locked. I usually lock it. Her smile tightened. Of course. I walked past her and opened the front door. The folder from Jonathan was still on the passenger seat of my car. I had left it there on purpose. Rachel followed me inside. I brought storage boxes, she said. We can start with Thomas's study. Why the study? Because that is where all the old papers are. You seem very interested in those papers. She laughed. Eleanor, somebody has to be organized. I took off my coat. I thought Daniel was organizing everything. Her eyes moved to mine. We both are. Another answer that did not quite match the last one. I walked into the kitchen and filled the coffee maker. Rachel stayed near the doorway. She seemed restless. We should probably get started, she said. There is a lot to do. Coffee first. I already had some. Then you can watch me drink mine. She gave me a strange look, but sat at the table. I poured a cup and joined her. For a minute, neither of us spoke. Then she said, "Did you think about what we talked about at dinner?" "Which part?" "Moving somewhere smaller." "A little." Her face brightened. "Good. There are some really nice places near Lake Norman. You would have less maintenance. More people your age. Activities. That sounds lovely." She leaned forward. "And the market is strong right now. This is actually a great time to sell." I looked at her over the rim of my cup. "Sell what?" Her expression froze. "Only for a moment. The house. Eventually. Eventually. When you are ready." I nodded. "And who decides when I am ready?" "You do, obviously." "Obviously." Rachel stood up. "Can we please just go through the study?" I let her lead the way. That mattered to me. I wanted to see where she went first. She walked straight to the bottom filing drawer. Not the desk. Not the shelves. The bottom drawer. She pulled it open and began moving folders. "What are you looking for?" I asked. "Nothing specific." "You went straight to that drawer. Thomas kept important things down here." "How do you know?" Her hand stopped. "Daniel told me." "Did he?" "Yes." She kept searching. Insurance. Taxes. Repairs. Bank statements. Then she reached the empty space I had noticed the day before. Her face changed. It was small, but I saw it. She searched behind the folders, then removed them one by one. "Something missing?" I asked. "No. You look like something is missing." "I am just trying to make sure nothing got misplaced." I leaned against the desk. "What exactly should be there?" Rachel turned toward me. "Eleanor, why are you making this difficult?" I asked a question. She exhaled. "There was a property folder. A thicker one. I saw it here before." My stomach went cold, but my voice stayed calm. "Before when?" "Months ago. You were in Thomas's files months ago. Daniel asked me to help." "When?" She looked away. "I do not remember the exact date." "I did. 3 months earlier, Rachel had brought me groceries after I caught a bad cold. She had spent almost an hour in the house while I was upstairs resting. At the time, I had thought she was being kind." "Was that the day you brought me soup?" I asked. She looked at me too quickly. "Maybe." I nodded. "And you went through Thomas's study while I was upstairs." "I was looking for insurance information." Without asking me. Her patience finally slipped. "We are family, Eleanor." I did not think I needed permission to help. There it was. Not an apology. Not even embarrassment. Permission simply did not seem important to her. She pushed the drawer closed. "The folder is not here. Maybe Thomas moved it." "Thomas has been gone 18 months. The room went quiet. Rachel realized what she had said. I said nothing. She picked up her purse. "I think we should do this another day. That is probably best." At the front door, she turned back. "If you find that folder, call me." "Why?" "Because it could be important." "Important to whom?" She stared at me. "To all of us." Then she left. I waited until her car disappeared around the corner before I walked outside and took Jonathan's folder from my car. Inside the house, I locked the door and opened it at the kitchen table. Jonathan had included a copy of an old record tied to the property. At the bottom was his handwritten note. "Rachel may be looking for the original transfer documents. Do not give her anything." I read it twice. Then my phone rang. It was Kevin Brooks. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said, "I thought you should know. I just received an email from Rachel. She wants the listing active by Monday morning. And she says you approved everything. Kevin sounded nervous, and I could not blame him. She said I approved it. I asked. In writing, he said. She forwarded another authorization this morning. I have not processed anything. After our conversation, I wanted to call you first. Thank you, Kevin. Please send me exactly what she sent you. I will. And do not tell Rachel you spoke with me. He paused. Understood. 5 minutes later, the email arrived. I forwarded it to Jonathan without changing a word. Then I called him. She submitted another document. I see it, he said. I heard his keyboard in the background. This is useful. Useful. Eleanor, she is creating her own record. Let her keep talking. Do not sign anything. I will not. And if anyone contacts you about an offer, call me. I hung up and looked at the for sale sign through my kitchen window. If you have ever had someone make decisions about your life while smiling and calling it help, you probably understand why I stayed quiet. And if you want to stay with me while I tell you how far Rachel took this, subscribe to the channel, because what happened next was the moment her plan started falling apart. Monday morning, the listing went live. I knew because Kevin sent me the link. The photographs showed my front porch, my kitchen, Thomas's study, even the small breakfast nook where we used to drink coffee every Sunday. Rachel had apparently sent Kevin older photographs from a family gathering because I had never allowed anyone inside to take new ones. By noon, there were 3 showing requests. By Tuesday, there were 7. I did not like strangers asking to see my home, so Kevin blocked all appointments until he could verify authority. Rachel did not know that. She thought everything was moving forward. Tuesday evening, she called me. How would you feel about spending a few days with Daniel and me? Why? Just a change of scenery. I like my scenery. She laughed, but it sounded forced. There may be some people looking at the house this week. I let the silence sit there. Looking at my house. Just casually. Nothing is final. I see. It is better to test the market before making a decision. That was an interesting way to describe listing someone's home for $729,000. All right, I said. She seemed surprised. All right. If people want to make offers, let them. Rachel became very quiet. You are comfortable with that? I am curious what the house is worth. That was true. It simply was not the whole truth. By Thursday afternoon, Kevin called again. We have an offer. How much? $735,000. Cash. The buyer wants a fast closing. I wrote the number on Thomas's old yellow legal pad. Does Rachel know? I sent the offer to the email she provided before I called you. My phone buzzed while he was still speaking. Rachel. I let it ring. Then another call. Then a text. Eleanor, great news. We need to talk tonight. I forwarded everything to Jonathan. He called 10 minutes later. This is where you need to be careful, he said. A serious buyer means the title company will start asking questions. Questions Rachel cannot answer. Not truthfully. The next morning, Jonathan called again. She answered them. His voice was different this time. What did she do? The title company requested written confirmation that she had authority to act for you. Rachel submitted a signed statement. I gripped the phone. With my name again. No. This time she signed her own. I did not understand why that mattered. Is that better? For you, yes. He paused. For Rachel, no. He explained it simply. Before, Rachel could claim confusion. She could say she misunderstood a conversation or believed another document gave her permission. But now she had personally signed a statement saying she had authority to handle the transaction on my behalf. The title company had asked directly. Rachel had answered directly. So what happens now? I asked. Nothing from you, Jonathan said. That is important. You do nothing. I looked at the number on Thomas's legal pad. $735,000. Rachel had seen that number and rushed forward. She could have stopped. She could have called me. She could have told the truth. Instead, she had signed her own name. Jonathan was silent for a moment before adding, "She just gave us the document I was waiting for. Daniel came to my house the next morning before 9. He did not call first. He knocked twice, then stood on the porch with both hands in his jacket pockets. I opened the door and immediately knew Rachel had told him something. Mom, we need to talk. Come in." He stepped inside and looked toward the kitchen. "Rachel says you are trying to stop the sale." I closed the door. "Did she say why?" "She said you changed your mind after she already did all the work." I almost smiled. "Did she tell you I never agreed in the first place?" His jaw tightened. "She said you did." "When?" "I do not know. Weeks ago." "Did you hear me say it?" He looked away. "No." I walked to the kitchen table. The folder Jonathan had prepared was already there. I had known this conversation was coming. Daniel followed me. "Mom, I am not trying to fight with you." "Neither am I. Then why is Kevin saying he cannot move forward?" "Ask Rachel." I did. "What did she say?" Daniel rubbed his face. "She said you were confused about some paperwork." I pulled out a chair. "Sit down." He did. I placed one page in front of him. It was the first authorization Kevin had sent me, the one with my name signed at the bottom. Daniel read it once, then again. "What is this?" "You tell me." "This is your signature." "No. It is my name." He looked up. "What do you mean?" "I did not sign it." His face went still. "Rachel said you did." I placed the second document beside it. This came later. He read the signed statement Rachel had sent to the title company. His eyes moved slowly across the page. "She signed this?" "Yes." "She said she had authority to act for you?" "Yes." "Did you give her authority?" "No." Daniel pushed back from the table. "This does not make sense." "Keep reading." I slid over printed emails from Kevin. Rachel asking for the listing to go active. Rachel requesting a fast process. Rachel saying I had approved everything. Daniel read each one without speaking. The color slowly left his face. "She told me you wanted to move," he said. "I know." "She said you were tired of the house." "I know." "She said you asked her to handle it because you did not want the stress." I nodded. "She told me something different." Daniel looked up sharply. "What?" "She told me you were organizing Thomas's papers. She told Kevin she was handling the sale for me. She told you I had already agreed." I watched him put the pieces together. "3 different stories," he said quietly. "That is what I thought." He stood and started pacing near the counter. "Why would she do this?" I could have answered. I could have said money, control, impatience. But I did not know yet, and I was done guessing. "You should ask your wife." His phone rang. "Rachel." He stared at the screen. "Answer it," I said. He hesitated, then put it on speaker. "Hey. Where are you?" Rachel asked. "At Mom's." Silence. Then, "Why?" I needed to talk to her. Her voice changed. "About what?" Daniel looked at the papers on the table. "The sale." Another pause. "Daniel, I told you she is getting nervous. Do not make this bigger than it is." He picked up the first authorization. "Did Mom sign the listing authorization?" "What?" I asked if she signed it. Rachel exhaled hard. "We already talked about this." "No. You talked. I believed you." Her voice became softer. "Daniel, she was going to sign it." He froze. "So did I. What did you say?" he asked. "She was going to." She agreed with the idea. I was just trying to keep things moving. Daniel looked at me. I said nothing. "You told me she already signed," he said. "Because I knew she would." "That is not the same thing." Rachel went quiet. Then she said, "You are taking this out of context." Daniel picked up the second document. "What about the statement you signed for the title company?" Silence again. Longer this time. "Where did you get that?" she asked. Daniel closed his eyes. That question was enough. He ended the call without another word. For a while, he just stood there. Then he sat back down. "Mom, I am sorry." I folded my hands on the table. I am not asking you to choose between me and Rachel. I know. I am asking you to stop believing things about me without asking me. He nodded slowly. What happens now? I looked at the folder. Jonathan is handling it. Jonathan Reed. Yes. Daniel knew the name. Thomas had mentioned him many times. Does he know everything? Enough. Daniel stared at Rachel's signature on the statement. Is the sale dead? Not yet. He looked confused. Why not? I gathered the papers and put them back in the folder. Because Rachel still thinks she can save it. The closing meeting was set for Friday at 10 in the morning. Rachel still believed she could push everything through. I knew because she sent me a message Thursday night saying there were only a few final details left. She even added a smiling face and told me not to worry. I did not reply. Jonathan had already spoken with the title company. He told them there was a dispute over authority and that I would attend the meeting in person. He asked them not to discuss his documents with Rachel before then. Friday morning, I put on a navy blue blouse, black pants, and the pearl earrings Thomas gave me on our 30th anniversary. Nothing special. I was not going there to make a scene. I was going there to tell the truth. Jonathan met me outside the title company's office in Charlotte. Ready? He asked. I have been ready since I saw that sign. He smiled. Then let us keep this simple. When we walked into the conference room, Rachel was already there. So was Daniel. Kevin sat near the end of the table beside a woman from the title company. The buyers were joining by video, which was probably for the best. Rachel looked at Jonathan, then at me. Her smile disappeared. What is he doing here? She asked. He is my attorney, I said. Daniel looked down at the table. Rachel turned to him. You knew about this. Since yesterday. And you did not tell me. Jonathan pulled out a chair for me. Rachel, this meeting is not about Daniel. She folded her arms. Then what is it about? The title representative cleared her throat. We have questions about the seller's authority and the ownership records. Rachel immediately looked at me. Eleanor, just tell them you agreed to sell. I sat down. But I did not. We discussed it. You discussed it. I listened. You said you wanted less responsibility. I said I needed the gutters cleaned. Kevin looked down, trying not to react. Rachel's face tightened. This is ridiculous. Jonathan opened his folder. If you have stayed with my story this far, you already know why keeping quiet mattered. I had mentioned subscribing earlier, so I will only say this. I am glad you stayed, because this was the moment I finally learned what Thomas had protected all those years ago. Jonathan placed a certified property record on the table. After Thomas updated the Whitmore estate plan, the property was transferred into the Whitmore Family Trust, he said. Eleanor is the surviving trustee with sole authority over the property. I stared at the document. Jonathan had explained it to me before, but hearing it in that room made it feel real. Thomas had not hidden the house from me. He had protected it for me. Rachel leaned forward. Daniel is Thomas's son. He is, Jonathan said. That does not give him authority to sell trust property. I never said it did, Daniel replied quietly. Jonathan turned to Rachel. And Daniel never gave you authority either. She looked at me. Eleanor wanted to sell. Then we have another problem, Jonathan said. He placed the first authorization on the table. Mrs. Whitmore says she did not sign this. Rachel's eyes moved toward the signature. She knew about the sale. That was not my question. Rachel said nothing. Jonathan placed the second document beside it. This one is more important. The title company directly asked whether you had authority to act for Eleanor Whitmore. You signed your own name confirming that you did. Rachel's face went pale. I was helping her. You were asked a direct question about legal authority, Jonathan said. You gave a direct answer. The title representative spoke next. Without valid authority from the trustee, we cannot proceed with this transaction. Rachel turned toward me. Do you understand what you are doing? There is a $735,000 cash offer on the table. Yes, I said. It is an offer for my home. You could move somewhere easier. I could. Then why are you stopping this? I looked at her. Because I decide when I leave. The room went quiet. Rachel looked at Daniel, but he did not rescue her. He was staring at the documents. You told me Mom signed everything, he said. Daniel, not now. You told me she asked you to do this. I was trying to help this family. I finally asked the question I had been carrying since Tuesday morning. Then why did you put my name on a document I never signed? Rachel opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Jonathan closed the folder. The sale was stopped. The buyers would get their deposit back. Kevin's brokerage would correct the listing. But Jonathan was not finished. He turned to me and said, Eleanor, there is one more document we need to discuss. Rachel looked at him. For the first time since I had known her, she did not look confident. She looked afraid of what was still inside that folder. Jonathan did not open the folder right away. He looked at Rachel first. Before we leave, there is something else Eleanor needs to know. Rachel shifted in her chair. What now? Jonathan removed a copy of an email and placed it in front of me. This came from the title company's file this morning. I read it slowly. Rachel had sent instructions about where she wanted the proceeds from the sale transferred after closing. The account was not mine. It was not Daniel's either. I looked across the table. Whose account is this? Rachel stared at the paper. It was temporary. Daniel leaned forward. Temporary for what? For handling expenses. $735,000. His voice was quiet now. Rachel looked around the room as if someone might give her a better answer. Nobody did. Jonathan pointed to the email. The title company never approved these instructions. They flagged them because the account information did not match the trustee records. I finally understood why he had called her last signed statement the document he was waiting for. Rachel had not simply moved too fast. She had left a trail from the listing to the authorization, from the authorization to the title company, and from there to an account I had never seen. Was that the plan? I asked her. Sell my home, move the money somewhere else, then tell me it was easier for everyone. No. Her answer came too quickly. Then explain it. She looked at Daniel. I was going to manage the money until Eleanor got settled. Daniel shook his head. You never told me that. Because you would have made it complicated. He stared at her for a long moment. It was Mom's money. It was supposed to be complicated. Rachel pushed back her chair. I was trying to solve a problem. I looked at her. I was not the problem. She had no answer for that. Jonathan explained that the transaction was finished. There would be no closing. The title company would keep its records, and he would help me decide what formal steps were appropriate regarding the documents that had been submitted in my name. I did not need to understand every legal detail that morning. I only needed to know my home was still mine. Daniel walked me to my car. Mom, I should have asked you, he said. Yes. He looked surprised by how quickly I answered. I kept thinking Rachel knew what was best. For whom? He looked down. I do not know anymore. I touched his arm. You are my son. I love you. But loving you does not mean giving you permission to make decisions for me. I understand. I hope you do. The following Monday, I had the locks changed. I asked Daniel to return his spare key. He did. I moved every important document to a safe deposit box and worked with Jonathan to update my estate plan and contact information. Kevin removed the listing and came by personally to take down the sign. I am sorry, Mrs. Whitmore, he said. You did the right thing when you called me, I told him. After he left, I carried the sign into the garage. I thought about throwing it away. Instead, I leaned it against the wall behind an old garden rake. Maybe I needed the reminder. Not of Rachel. Of myself. For 18 months after Thomas died, people had treated my grief like it made me fragile. Rachel had taken it one step further. She had mistaken quiet for confusion and age for permission. She was wrong. Daniel and I did not repair everything overnight. Trust does not work that way. He started visiting alone once a week. Sometimes we talked about what happened. Sometimes we just drank coffee. Rachel did not come to my house again. I did not ask Daniel to leave her, and I did not tell him what kind of marriage he should have. That was his life to manage, just as mine was mine to manage. A few weeks later, I sat on my porch with Thomas's old coffee mug beside me. The oak tree he planted was beginning to turn green for spring. I thought about the first morning I saw that sign in my yard. Rachel believed her costly mistake was signing the wrong document. I think her real mistake happened much earlier. She believed I would never look closely enough to notice. If you were in my place, I would genuinely like to know what you would have done. Would you have confronted her immediately, or stayed quiet and gathered the facts first? Leave your opinion in the comments. And if this story made you think about the difference between helping someone and taking control of their life, give it a like. Sometimes the quietest people in a family are the ones paying the closest attention.